This is CNN Breaking News.
The Cristero War was known as a cristada. It was known for an uprising counter-revolution against the anti-Catholicism of ruling Mexican government. The rebellion was set up the enforcement of Mexican Constitution of 1917. The Mexican Revolution was the largest rebellion in Mexican history. It was based on the peasants demanding land and social justice. The church did not support the revolution, which meant threatening Mexico's property rights. The Calles administration felt its revolutionary reforms were threatened by the church. The church influenced the Mexican population, anti-social statuses and constitution were instituted and beginning a terrible persecution of Catholics, resulting in death of thousands.
Cristero War was a strong war between the government and the state of Mexico. It all started when President Calles came into the power because he wanted to bring Mexico's population to belong to a socialist state, and he would insist that the church was poisoning the minds of the people and that its teachings were not helpful. Calles wanted to ensure that all Mexican citizens were going to be educated under the government's dictatorship. He wanted to be sure that only the government had the freedom to form the minds of its citizens. In order to enforce this new law, they had to expel all clergy except for a few priests who would oversee the spiritual needs of the people and with the supervision of the state authority. This led to various places in Mexico going without one single mass celebration for a very long time. Many churches in the country suspended cults, and the clergy convinced them to boycott government, such as not to paying taxes, not to minimize the purchase of the products sold by the government, and not to buy lottery tickets, and not to use vehicles in order not to buy the gasoline. This severely affected national economy and inspired the radicalization of some groups among the Mexican Catholics and Catholic citizens, and this is why they formed the National League for the Defense of Religious Freedom in March of 1925. The purpose of this was to defend their own point of view, and their goal was to achieve freedom of cult by legal means, but it was declared illegal and thus became an underground movement. This radicalization grew as a social movement with the goal in Mexico.
The impact of the Cristero War was not felt only throughout Mexico, but also in the United States, in the ways that Mexican immigrants throughout the escape of the violence of their homelands and the exodus from Mexico's west central region was particularly great. Historian Julia Young writes of the Catholic's historical review of all the causes of the marking rights since immigrations. How do Mexico West Central states during the 1920s, there was a devastation throughout the Cristero War that reinforced and solidified this during the next part of the decade. In the year 1928, for example, the Mexican government got this region with a campaign aimed to evacuate residents, then pillage and bomb their towns. Eyewitness Luis Gonzalez describes the aftermath in such an attack against the town of San Jose de Garcia in Michoacán, a place of roofless walls of the rubbled ages and covered with green grass supported of the streets and all garden walls. The only sound was the starving cats. After this type of devastation, not a single town was recovered at all. Not nowadays, they remain ghost towns. With access to Mexico's new railways infrastructure, Mexico citizens left their war to their country drowns. They are not only settled in the previously traditional immigrations of the Southern California, Texas, and the rest of Southwest, but also began to make their way to other parts of the U.S. that had previously few Mexican immigrants, the Midwest, for example.
Leopoldo Mendez shows in this cartoon the various teachers that were assassinated in the Cristero War. The way that he describes this cartoon is by saying, in the name of Christ, they have assassinated more than 200 teachers. Mendez portrays the hard killing of Professor Ramon Horta del Rio in Nayarit, Mexico, in which the killers covered the body of their victim in gas and set him on fire. All cristeros who became prisoners were killed. The death penalty was also the punishment of those who helped the rebels. Every Monday there were shooting and deaths by hanging in the public.
Mexico is under siege. A plot to poison the minds and hearts of our people, to turn them into religious fanatics. This evil, this threat, it will not be tolerated.
You're an army fighting for God and for the church. We will fight with honor and dignity.
In the United States, we've been following your war with the Catholic Church.
I would hardly call it a war.
There is a time for peace, a time for war.
Even if I were younger, I would not fight.
You cannot fight for something you don't believe in.
I believe in freedom. The fate of Mexico is in God's hands, not yours or mine. This will be one of the most important battles of our struggle. If you lose this war, we're not gonna lose this war. Why are you here?
We want to be cristeros.
Cristeros.
Yes.
We are going to send a message that freedom is our lives, and we will defend it or die trying. ¡Que viva Cristo Rey! ¡Que viva Cristo Rey!
This is CNN Breaking News.